It's actually very hypocritical, the incidents that have happened in the past few days, and it has angered a lot of people, including me, because we are a country that has faced racism for over 200 years. And despite that, we are ourselves indulging in racism towards students who come from abroad. And by now, I'm sure everybody knows what we're talking about. We're talking about the attack that has happened on African students in India in the past few days. And just a couple of hours ago, another Kenyan girl was assaulted in Noida. And it's the sheer hypocrisy of everything that's happening that has driven us to do this Facebook Live. We are live with the members of the African Association of Students, Association of African Students in India. And before we move on, before I introduce any of them, I would want to play the video that went viral that the association members actually posted on Facebook on their page about a bunch of African nationals who were attacked, who were beaten up in Ansel Plaza in Greater Noida. And here is that brutal video, after which we will get back to talking about the racism that these students are facing.
When we were inside Ansel Plaza, we saw some Indians with cane, some iron metal, some metal, and they were using to eat me and my brother.
When we were running towards Ansel Plaza, I saw many Indians. I told them, please call the police. Nobody tried to call it, like our sisters.
नाइजीरियनों का मकान अब हमसे आगे नाइजीरियन रहते हैं। दो गाड़ियां खड़ी थी, उनकी खिड़कियां खुली हुई थी और वो लोगों का डेली का यही धंधा था। तो हमारा बच्चा घर से निकला, घर से निकलते ही उन लोगों ने उसको दबोच लिया और गाड़ी में डाल के बाहर ले गए।
Well, it's the attack in Noida on the Nigerians is a serious issue and it's a serious offense. And whatever needs to be done under law with a proper investigation shall be done.
We are live today from the Quint's office in Noida, and it's been a very tense week, and we're actually discussing the hypocrisy that most of us have displayed in the past few days, where as a country we have faced racism, and despite that there have been incidents of racist attacks towards foreign nationals, especially African students. And we're live with three of them today, and they're from the Association of African Students in India. And personally, when I see this video, I feel ashamed and I feel rather disgusted that something like this happened. And I just want to ask you, Presido, how does something like this make you feel? You guys put up this video. When you saw it, how did it make you feel?
First of all, I, on behalf of the Association of African Students in India, I want to express our condolence to the late teen who died. And because every human life is really important, irrespective of where you're from, irrespective of your race, your color, your language, your religious inclination or affiliation. So it is really, really important that every life, you know, it should be considered very important. So, yeah, for me, when I first saw this video, it was so heartbreaking. I felt so terribly bad that I couldn't even watch, finish the watching. I had to, pull up my phone because I could imagine the pains, the agony these boys were going through at that point in time. So it was so inhumane for that to be happening, so deplorable, so condemnable in every aspect, because we as human beings, we seem to have lost our values. We seem to have lost, the what actually makes us human. I tend to ask myself questions: what is left for humanity if we keep treating ourselves this way? I mean, if everyone keeps getting at loggerheads against each other, then the world is actually heading for dooms. I mean, and it's really, really important this time. We need to use this opportunity to unite against racial bias, racial discrimination, bigotries in every form. This has to be discouraged, because it's really important for us to do this. So I want to say that we, as the youth of the world today, irrespective of where you're from, the country, like I said before, we all need to unite. We all need to unite and celebrate the diversity in the unity in our diversity, because diversity is just a natural phenomenon. Where I'm from, I have my own values. And here in India, I've been here for the past 3 years. I've seen that the values here are really, really respected. Every society has a value to keep, to protect, and it's only natural for you to go to a place and then you just have no choice but to try to learn, to understand the values of that society, and try to see how you can integrate more with the locals. So I believe what we're having today is a case of a disconnect. There is a huge gap between the both communities, between the African community and the Indian community. It's really important for us to get to know ourselves, because what's going on, the rumors that's been peddling, that's been going on everywhere, has been as a result of poor communication. There's been a huge communication gap. There's a need for us to close this gap. There's a need to create a communication channel between both communities.
So that was Presido talking about how he feels there's a disconnect between the African community and people living in India, and how there's a need to sort of understand each other, because there is so much scope for that. And now I would just like to ask you, like, you saw the video, and there have been multiple instances in the past 1 week where Africans have been assaulted in the country. Have you ever faced an instance of racism that you want to share with everybody who's watching right now?
Yeah, of course, it's happened all the time. And
can you introduce yourself first?
My name is Roderick Kazamba, and I'm from Congo.
Yeah.
I've been here since 2 years and a half. Living in India has been really, really tough for us. We face a lot of racism here in India, of course, and not even last Monday, I went to a bus station, and 2 Indians approached me, and they were really nice. They asked me some question, but after asking me my identity, and they asked me one question: "Are you smoke weed?" So it is all those kind of question, all those stereotypes based on assumption. So that's what is bringing all this discrimination, and I don't understand you, you don't understand me, so I'm judging you just based on stereotypes. You are dangerous, you are cannibals. It's where a lot.
Why do you think Indians have this conception? Like,
it can also be based on the fact that the way the media has displayed or portrayed what us Africans, people are used on watching movie. They don't even understand.
So you're saying popular culture has a lot of
role to play, because you cannot judge someone based on a movie or what. You need to approach him, and to have an exchange time, and you will see that you will get more to know him. So
actually, that's a very interesting and valid point that he's made here, is that a lot of popular culture representations tend to generalize Africans, much like as we were talking about it, much like a lot of Indians are generalized, that, you know, all of the Indians do the same thing. So I think there's a gap there where there is generalization happening on both sides. And actually, we actually did a very interesting exercise, and to everybody who's watching us right now, we are live with members of the Association of African Students in India, and they're here to talk about what's been going on in the past few days, where incidents of racism, where incidents of brutal assault on African students has shook the country. And, you know, interestingly, I don't know how, I think there's a need to educate ourselves about the world. I think there's a need to educate ourselves about continents, about countries, and, you know, something as simple as this. This is just a map of Africa, okay? Just a very rough sketch of a map of Africa that we've drawn here. And, you know, you can see Nigeria is so far away from Ethiopia. Actually, interestingly, Ethiopia is actually closer to India than it is to Nigeria itself. So sort of clubbing Ethiopians and Nigerians and Kenyans together under one umbrella is also something that we need to sort of actively, you know, not do, because if you don't like being generalized, as, you know, not every Indian is racist, similarly, not every African is the same, you know. So there is that need, I think. I would now like to go to Lawrence, and can you talk a little bit about the racism that you faced in India, especially in the context of what's happening in the past few days?
Yeah, basically, with what we faced every day, it's like something we have accepted to live with. Yeah, because when you've tried to see you're in a conserved society, a society that has not, you know, accepted the fact that what is happening is racism, that has not accepted that it's discrimination. So, you know, you just have to accept yourself, you know, and, you know, try to survive, because your survival actually depends on it. So, with what has been happening, we only demanded for justice. You know, it has been happening over the years, 2013, 2000 in Jalandhar, 2014 elsewhere, 2015 in Delhi, Rajiv Chowk, 2016 here in Delhi, also in Bangalore. It's happening. You know, so as it keeps happening, we think it's just based on hate, you know, because there's an event that always leads to this. But this has actually brought out every hidden, you know, truth, every hidden fact about this, that it is an organized crime that is targeted towards the Africans.
Okay.
Yeah, because yesterday or the day before, it was the Nigerians should leave Greater Noida. Now, if you should say a particular set of people should leave your country, they are doing this, you know, that is not the right way to go about it. They only demanded for justice, you know.
Yeah.
If those students were actually, you know, found guilty, we would ensure that the laws take its course, you know.
Yeah.
But this
But
is
taking law in your own hands.
That is wrong. By insisting that the police should jail them unlawfully. So that was what has actually brought out all this, and the organization, you know, the funding, everything is now well, you know, visible to the public, that the African community is being targeted. Not generally or necessarily the student, but because the students are a lesser, you know, they are the weaker, you know, class of the Africans here. So they are easily, because students who want to go and get things outside, students who want to go to school, they want to do this, they want to do that. So they are the ones who are the victims, you know, when it comes to extreme, you know, mob attacks.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, you guys have spoken about how a lot of you have felt targeted, have felt like a lot of stereotypes have been associated with you. I actually want to read out some of the comments that we're getting on our Facebook Live, where people are actually saying that we're there with you. So, I'll just read them out for you. Shreyansh Singh says, I'm from India and I support you. Faiz Hamzala says, don't worry, brother, we're there with you, we stand by you. Sanjeev Jaswal says, everything that's happening is wrong and it should be stopped. Tanshu Singh says, we are with you, man. Thupten Jampa says, we stand together. So, you know, the Facebook Live has already garnered a lot of reactions where people are saying that they're with you. So, everybody who's watching us, I think the main point that we're also discussing is that just like a lot of us hate being generalized as the nation of snake charmers or as the nation of elephants and, the golden bird. Similarly, people who come from abroad to our country will also hate getting generalized as cannibals, as criminals, as primitives, something that could be also associated to a lot of pop culture representations like Rodrigue pointed out. Okay, moving on, I just want to know that in the past few days, the incidents that have happened, and actually according to some statistics that I was reading, in the past 2 years, there have been more than 7 reported racial incidents, okay, of targeted violence. I just want to know that how has the police been with you guys? Like when you've gone to register an FIR or a complaint, how has the police dealt with you guys?
Yeah, I think it's been a lackluster approach from the police. They haven't really taken it as a very serious issue. That is why we keep having these issues, reoccurring over time. And until the police, rises up to the occasion and takes this really, really serious and tries to genuinely fight this, genuinely try to put an end to what is going on out there, then it's still going to continue. But if, I don't know, I would like to see what has been going on the side of the police as a lip service. I'm sorry to say, because if you genuinely want to actually put an end to something, you would have a genuine approach. You would have preventive measures, put in place in order to further avert these things from happening. But we have seen it reoccurring over time. It's been happening, like Lawrence has said earlier, and this has happened because the police hasn't been very, very honest about this. And we want to use this medium. We want to thank the Quint for giving us this opportunity to reach out to the larger Indian community. We want to also take this opportunity to reach out to the Ministry of External Affairs, to the Delhi Police. We appreciate for the past 2-3 days that this has been going on. They've been trying to put in frantic efforts, trying to curb the situation. But we request that they do more. They put in more. They put in more time, more energy. They should carry out a sensitization campaign, to sensitize the general populace to prevent these things from happening. Because if something is not done, it's still gonna keep happening. And India is, for Africans, India has been a favorite study destination. And by the time you keep letting these things fly, you don't pay good attention to addressing most of these. These are fundamental issues that needs to be addressed. So the Ministry of External Affairs, the Delhi Police, all the authorities, they should take this really, really serious and see how they can put an end to this. Because
actually, I want to just cut in and ask you, what is the one reason that you chose to come to India? And for everybody who's watching this right now, here is an African student who's come all the way from Africa to India to study, and he's going to tell you why he's here. So before we form any sort of stereotypes, before we start judging people, before we start indulging in hypocritical behavior, at least understand the person, at least understand where he's coming from. So, Presido, why did you come to India?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I came to India based on the picture I had in my mind, while growing up. I say this everywhere, every forum I go. I say this to my Indian friends, and whenever I tell them this, they're really heartbroken. But growing up as a Nigerian kid, first of all, Bollywood is a very popular industry in Nigeria, Africa as a whole. So we
you know any Bollywood songs?
Okay. I think quite a few, maybe the old ones.
Can you sing them for us?
Okay.
Come on.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's quite old.
It's okay. I think everybody watching will know.
I might not get the words,
That's
but
okay. You can.
Maybe just a tune.
Yeah.
Like Janiya, Johnny, I know that's just the tune, but I don't have the words. But this was a big movie in Nigeria back then. We have someone in the person of Amitabh Bachchan.
Yeah.
He's a big artist in Nigeria, even up until this moment. So I grew up watching Amitabh
Which
Bachchan.
Amitabh Bachchan film do you like a lot?
Oh, I think he did The Mad, right?
The
Mad, M-A-D.
Amard.
I can't remember the
Okay.
title of the game, but yeah. So, growing up as a kid,
Yeah.
I grew up loving Bollywood movies because of the Bollywood actually, would I say supposedly, or portrayed the Indian culture as a very beautiful culture, and that's what I grew up knowing. The Indian culture is so beautiful with lots of diversities and all, from food to dance to art to generally. And I saw India as a very beautiful place, and then I fantasized on traveling to India.
We were talking about Bollywood, and we were talking about how how Amitabh Bachchan is big, really big in Nigeria. So I think it sort of becomes a cue for us to understand that a lot of things that we don't know about them has a lot to do with our culture, and it would be great if we as Indians could also understand their culture. And now I would just want to ask, because you pointed this out, that you speak Hindi very well. So why don't you, for our viewers, say a little bit of Hindi?
Actually, I don't. I like to correct that one. I don't speak Hindi very well, but it's good if this is where the government has failed in their own responsibilities. You have foreigners coming into the country. You don't set out structures that enables them to learn the language, since you've adopted Hindi as your language and not English. Now you have to put in structures in these universities, in this institute. It should be mandatory that students learn the language Hindi for that communication barrier to be broken. So the government has to do this, and ensure this will actually play a lot of role in ensuring that the integration, proper integration of the foreigners, the Africans, with the Indians and the community, so that we could both coexist, cohabit as one people. So I will try my best to learn Hindi, but
He's actually making a very valid point here, and I hope that whoever is watching this, and I hope that the Ministry of External Affairs and somebody from the government is watching this, because they have a lot of things to say. You do speak a little bit of Hindi. Why don't you give us a hint of that?
Yeah, but it's not a shota, just Torah. Yeah, it is not.
And what was that phrase that you were saying in Hindi about I like you very much in Hindi?
Oh, I learned a sentence like you're meeting someone for the first time, and then you exchange pleasantries, and then you go, nice to meet you, I'm glad to meet you. So what I learned from Nigeria was, because I knew that I was going to be meeting new friends, I was going to be, in order for me to connect, I need to find a language of connection. So I learned the word Absa Milka Kushui, or Absa Milka Asha Lega. I hope that's correct.
Yeah, it is actually. आपसे मिलके भी बहुत अच्छा लगा. So it's actually mutual. So I think what we've been discussing for the past 20-25 minutes is that if there's somebody coming from abroad to our country and they're willing to learn our culture, they're willing to accept who we are, then before we start judging them, before we start, doing any sort of act which can be called racist, I think we also need to understand them. We also need to understand where they come from. And just to wrap up, I just want to know one last thing, which is that we were discussing some of the incidents that have happened in the past. Do you, as the association members, do you know where those cases are now? Do you know if they have progressed at all? Like if complaints have been registered, or what's happening with cases that happened, say, a year ago or 2 years ago?
Well, I would like you to rephrase that question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. So basically what I'm asking is that even in the past couple of years, there have been some instances of racial attack, right? So do you know what happened to those cases?
The racial attacks?
Yeah.
Okay. Those cases are still there because, like I said before, the genuineness to actually put an end to all of these attacks hasn't been not very taken really seriously. So we still find some issues here and there of people making side comments when you pass, and then they look at you and then they start laughing. One experience I once had was when I first came. I was in NIT, and then when I walk into the class, or a fellow black person walks into the class, because NIT is a predominantly Indian institution. So you walk into the class and then they start making side comments and laughing. So that gets you really, it makes you feel bad as a human, and you start asking yourself, what's going on? What's wrong with me? Why are they laughing at me? I mean, do I look like I'm from another planet? The only difference is just the skin. So, and when you ask them, they'll tell you, oh, not it. We're not saying it's not about you. But the truth is they're actually referring to you.
Yeah.
So all of this, for human beings to be able to coexist, in a peaceful environment, there's the point for everyone to have a sense of belonging. Because you as a human, if you're not welcomed wherever you go, then you can't actually live there, and you just want to live, do what you want to do, and live. So it's not a very receptive situation, and a lot of Africans are really thinking of going home. They want to go because they're tired of, sick and tired of the situation.
Do any of you personally know friends who are actually thinking of now going back?
Before that, I want to just add on this because with regards, we have the Minister of External Affairs recently. She's made a comment requesting for report, and the Chief Minister of the state, UP also. But still after that, there was an attack on a lady. So the culture of the Indian society today is questionable. When we say we respect women, we respect humanity. Some tell you humanity is their only religion. But is that practice, are they practicing this? So this is not just talking, issuing comments, diplomacy also have its own role to play in this. So when it gets out of the student's hand, it goes into the diplomats, those in the government position. So that is where we are having issues. They should pass it's a bill now, make it a law that any racial attack on African should be not treated lightly. I believe the Indians must abide by this, but they have not accepted this as a racial attack. They keep on saying this is a criminal offense, this situation is deplorable. We don't want that because it keeps happening again. The next time it's going to be given another name, maybe a student clash, so we don't want this to continue. I would like to just end this, my own part of discussing by saying what Socrates actually asked Lysis sometime. He said, what is a friend? We have extended our hands of friendship with India. We have bilateral relationship. And why are we doing this? Because we believe that we should encourage friendship. So now it's questionable. Who are our true friends? Are Indians our friends? Are they being our brothers or our enemies? So it's it's okay. I don't want to be so passionate.
No, I think
He was getting emotional.
I know, I can sense that. And I think listening to him, I think I'm also slightly emotional now. And like we were discussing, I think everybody who's watching this and everybody who thinks that what has happened is deplorable and it is something that action needs to be taken against. I think it's a shame that what has happened. And I would just like to tell all of you that just like we discussed about how generalizing a particular community is actually very dangerous, I would like to say that generalizing, all Indians as racists is equally dangerous, but that cannot in any way justify what has happened. And
I would like to add something,
Yeah.
if you don't mind. Yeah. Africa is a continent of hospitality. I want you all to know that. We are not cannibals. Africa is not a land of drug peddlers. Africa is a beautiful continent. Africa is one of the richest continents. Africa has huge potentials, but Africa is the youngest continent. Africa is growing, and Africa someday, very soon, is going to be one of the most prosperous continents. And I want you Indians, I want everyone, the whole world, to realize that Africa is rising, and it's going to rise, and it will rise. And the day will come when all Africans will head back home and stay back in Africa and study in Africa, live in Africa. We're coming here not because we don't like to live in Africa. We don't like to stay home, stay at home. We just want to let you know that the huge potential in Africa is enough to keep us back home. It's just a question of time, and everything will. In Nigeria, there are over 1.2 million Indians living in Nigeria. I can tell you that. Trust me. I mean, we give them the best of hospitality. They have the best of jobs. I mean, they are well paid, expatriates. So when we come here as students, we expect that we get similar treatment, and getting here is really, really heartbreaking. Personally, I wouldn't want to, at the way things are going, I wouldn't want to keep recommending India as a study destination, because if the government isn't ready to do something very, very drastic, to handle the situation, then what's the point getting my brother back from Africa, come here to study? I mean, Africa contributes a whole lot to the Indian economy, from health to education to, you can name it, a whole lot. Yeah. Africa, Nigeria alone accounts for the highest crude purchase. For India, India is Nigeria's biggest buyer of crude. So India and Nigeria, there is a whole lot between India and Nigeria, not just Nigeria, but the whole of Africa. So the Indian government should take this really serious. They shouldn't just concentrate on just having businesses in Africa and not even thinking about addressing the situation back home. Because these are fundamental issues that needs to be addressed, and it's really important that this happens. And yeah. I want to quickly appeal to the chief minister. He has powers. He can actually call on the locals. We are appealing on behalf of the Association of African Students in India, on behalf of the African community here. We are appealing to the chief minister. All he needs to do is call the locals and tell them to stop whatever they're doing, because what they're doing would definitely have an adverse effect on the larger Indian economy or as a country. So please tell them to stop. We know very well, if you issue a statement and tell them to stop whatever they're doing, they will stop. Thank you very much.
So, like a lot of people who are commenting and who are telling all three of you, that they're very sorry about the state of affairs, and probably a sorry is not enough, because there has to be some sort of legal recourse or legal action that has to translate on ground before you guys can feel safe again. So we were with a person who's grown up watching Bollywood, who knows about Amitabh Bachchan. We have one person here who has, who's learned a little bit of Hindi so he can be in this country. And we have one person who got so emotional talking about what's happening. And I think anybody who was watching this, if you watch these 3 African students, I think it was enough for you to know that they liked being in this country, but they don't want to be victim of racial attacks. And with that, I would just like to sign off and say thank you. Thank you guys for coming here. And thank you everybody for watching. They've made an appeal, and I hope everybody who's listening, including government stakeholders, actually pay heed to this. Thank you so much for watching.